tell you the one thing you can't CGI that I thought was hilarious watching this movie was just watching a camel run. How often in a movie do you see a camel run?
Yeah.
Like the oddest running animal you've ever seen.
Welcome to Idiot Plot, a comedic podcast critiquing, discussing, and analyzing the media industry through reviews, debates, and historical deep dives.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Idiot Plot. I'm David Yanis, joined as always by my co-host Alex Overdahl.
Welcome back.
And Justin Neitzel.
Hola.
On today's episode, we are starting a new series where one of us picks a movie to talk about that at least one of us hasn't seen, kind of introduce us to new movies and new discussion points. But first, we are skipping what we watched this week and replacing it with a news discussion for a news story that happened the past week. And our topic for today is the trailer for Disney's Cruella. It just dropped, and
Jokella.
and Jokella. So for people that don't know, Cruella is a prequel to 101 Dalmatians, showing the origin story of the villain and how she came to be. It stars Emma Stone as Cruella de Vil and is coming out May 28th, 2021. It's been in development for a long time. It was announced in 2011 and is finally just coming out. But I want to start off the discussion with a simple question of what the hell are they doing? What
I thought the question was going to be why.
Well, why too? But
That works too.
But what the hell? What the hell did I just watch?
Joker meets Devil's Wears Prada and The Hunger Games.
But we're seeing the rip-offs of the rip-off in case of Joker. I'm really mad we don't have this recorded, but like right after we stopped recording last week, we were talking about like film trends we hate, like, you know, cinematic universe, whatever, and I brought up that with Promising Young Woman, which I'm sure we're going to talk about come awards movie stuff. Yeah, exactly. Being like, you know, cringy morals for, you know, female Joker, and it's like, you know, the clones are going to start coming now that Joker had the award success. People are going to copy this shitty movie, and then now we have literally the next week Cruella trailer, which is again just like Joker for dog killers.
We also had the Justice League trailer where the Joker literally says the same exact line as Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Like,
he literally says we live in a society.
Like, can we move on?
People are trying really hard to profit out Joker because it was huge. I think Joker is the highest rated R-rated movie of all time. It was super big. And with Cruella, it's one of two things. Either it's misleading marketing because the movie supposedly wrapped filming a month after Joker came out. So either the marketing for Cruella is misleading, trying to profit off of Joker, or they reshot it to make it look more like Joker. Because if you put the two trailers side by side, Cruella stole a lot from the Joker trailer. Almost shot for shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
And
I mean, I feel like also they could have just, after Joker, even if they'd shot a lot of it, besides rewrites, they could have recut the film. Because, I mean, the way it's shot, like, aesthetically, again, is also, like, just Joker.
Mm-hmm. Same aspect ratio, same color scheme.
Which wasn't well done either, so.
Guys, stop trying to make Joker a thing.
It looks a little bit better than Joker, I'd say. Because I hate how Joker looked, even from the trailer. It looks a little bit like they use a nicer camera. But
I will say Emma Stone looks like she's doing a very good performance, but that's about all I could say from the trailer. It was like, she looks good. The rest of the movie, no.
And I mean, it's only going to get more common now because Joker was up for Oscars. Promising Young Woman's going to be up for Oscars. You don't have, you know, and both of them have major controversial discussion around them for, you know, the morals of the movie. So it's a proven formula, and it's going to keep happening.
The question I find myself asking with Cruella is, who is this for?
Topic Joker.
Joker's hot topic Joker. When Suicide Squad came out, and everyone had the fucking the fucking damage tattoos and shit on their head. And like, I want to be like Joker and Harley because I never actually read a comic book in their lives and have no idea what their relationship's supposed to be. I mean, they're definitely going for the Hot Topic crowd that goes and buys Nightmare Before Christmas T-shirts and
in
that
summer.
kind of thing. Yeah, in summer, which is a market that is really profitable. The problem is I don't see that market going for a Cruella de Vil movie because watching that trailer, it looked like an SNL bit. I mean, SNL did one. They did the Sesame Street one where it was Oscar the Grouch as the Joker in a Joker trailer, and I got the same vibes from that than I do from this.
Well, it's directed by Greg Gillespie. I think that's right. Who directed I, Tonya?
Oh no, he's good. What? I liked I, Tonya. No.
So
No.
maybe it's good.
Does that mean this is going to be good? I don't want this to be good.
No, it's not going to be good.
I don't want this to be a thing.
Hey, Wonder Woman 84 is coming from the director of Monster.
But well, that's a little bit different. I, Tonya is tonally you could compare it to Cruella. I, Tonya is really good. This
Either that or they cut the trailer to look like Joker. That's about it, and then it's not even that. I mean,
we'll know more when it comes out or when there's more from it.
Wouldn't be the first time Disney's kind of false advertised a movie.
I mean, they want. See,
I think it almost has to be because, like, again, that's the trend. I mean, it has to be like legit because that's the trend now, and Disney is certainly not one to miss out on a money making trend.
I mean, well, they need this to be a success. This movie's been in development hell for a long time. It finished filming almost 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. Like, it needs to come out soon, and they're trying to hit for the fences. Like, this needs to be a success because as much as they suck for the most part, the Disney live action reboots have been, generally speaking, profitable. Usually it's the sequels that tank, I've noticed.
Well, we'll see how this one goes, considering the last live action one, I think, was Lion King, was it not?
Yeah, I believe you're right.
If people are fatigued with it, and hopefully, I mean, this is different. It's not going to be a shot-for-shot remake, but... See,
I like to think people have been fatigued with Disney, but as you've seen with Disney Plus, they are not.
Yeah.
Right, that's my thing is, well, with the sequel, they realize, oh, this is going to, suck. But the first one, they just, kind of blindly buy in. Lion King, Mulan. What else came out last year? That was one. I lost count of all of them at this point. Was Dumbo? No, Dumbo was before that.
Dumbo, Aladdin, and Lion King were 2019. Mulan was this year. Mulan was the last one. It wasn't Lion King. It was Mulan. But nobody saw it.
It didn't come out in theaters, and you had to pay a $30 toll fee to see it.
Yeah, I don't know many people that actually watched Mulan, and those that didn't like it. See, I want to hope that fatigue for those is coming in. I want to hope that Cruella is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back, because this is the third live action adaptation of 101 Dalmatians that we've received. Because there was the live action movie from the 90s, and then that had a sequel with Glenn Close, who actually was really good as Cruella de Vil.
She was. The movies were weird as hell, but...
Yeah, they're not good movies. They're really not.
I just remember when she gets baked into a cake.
Especially the second one. The second one is really bizarre.
They become like cannibals.
I don't remember that part.
I swear something happens like that. It's really weird.
Been a while. Yeah. It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, I doubt I'll tune in for those to get ready for this, because I don't plan on watching this movie unless it's really good or I'm forced to.
Whichever comes first.
But so that's Cruella. It's coming out in May. It's supposed to be in theaters, not Disney Plus, but I'm not holding my breath. Honestly, if there's any movie that they are going to release theatrically to test the waters, this is actually not a bad choice.
Yeah, because they want to put something as big as Black Widow just out as the first thing. So
I'm convinced they don't want to release that.
I mean, there are other way not to release it, but Cruella is coming out May 28th. The trailer is on YouTube. Go take a look for yourself and see the Joker rip off in all of its glory. Or Harley. People are saying it's Disney's Harley Quinn. It's not. It's just Joker.
Yeah.
Because Harley Quinn's knock off Deadpool, and this is not that.
Yeah. She'd be breaking the fourth wall, being like, let me tell you why I hate these dogs.
I bet you're wondering why I got here.
Then you get the dun dun dun.
But it's dogs barking Baba O'Reilly. It's not just O'Reilly. It's dogs barking it. And with that, we're going to move on to our main topic of today. With the first pick today is Alex. And Alex, go ahead and tell everyone what you made us watch.
Well, made you watch. I picked Lawrence of Arabia, the classic epic from the 1960s, for us all to watch and discuss epics and what happened to them, how we missed them.
Well, I'm excited to get into that. I'm going to start this, kind of explain why you want us to watch this movie and talk about it.
Well, besides the fact that it's really good, and obviously very influential and won a bunch of Oscars and is highly regarded, it's also because, it's one of the grandest examples of the epic genre, which is something that is pretty much dead now. Nobody makes them. It's an incredible style of film and filmmaking that has died off for a number of reasons and is something, that's very much missed, I think.
I can tell you one reason why it's probably not mainstream anymore is it's long.
Well, but everything now is long. That's something that's interesting is, people talk about an epic like, oh, it's going to be really long. This is 3 hours. This is 3.5 hours. But now every single movie, especially superhero movies, is at least 2.5 hours. A lot of them 240, 250.
I think the difference is they keep you more engaged with action than this one does.
Well, but, are they just throwing some CG fights at you to keep you, let's put one here that's not motivated by the story just to keep people in it?
So, it kind of introduced the film. Lawrence of Arabia is directed by David Lean, a director basically mostly did epics, and it was released in 1962 and stars Peter O'Toole as T.E. Lawrence and talks about T.E. Lawrence's adventures in the Middle East during World War I and how he basically single-handedly took down the Ottoman Empire while being kind of weaponized by everyone around him into this military force. And as he kind of becomes this almost godlike figure to those around him, he talks about his own mental instability and how that affected his own adventures and escapades in his personal life. Now, Justin, you kind of, I think, alluded to a little bit how you felt earlier, but you and me had not seen this movie before we did this whole suggestion thing. So I kind of want to know, what were your thoughts after watching it for the very first time?
My thoughts were, I can't believe I was intrigued with the movie, yet bored by the movie at the same time. And I think it's a great movie. It was amazing to watch. I just think there's times where it drags, but I also was thinking back on the movie, and I'm like, what could you cut? I'm like, I can't think of anything you could cut, because if you cut this, it takes away from that. I had a hard time, but I enjoyed the movie overall.
For me, I was surprised by it. When I think of 60s movies, I think of, maybe rightly or wrongly, I think of campiness, I think of positivity, I think of kind of like happy movies, kind of giving way to the darker, more introspective stuff of the 70s. This film shocked the hell out of me. Not only did it have kind of that 60s style of the bright colors and the big fanfare orchestra, it was extremely personal. It dealt a lot with T.E. Lawrence's personal life. It was an epic scale character study, and I was blown away by that. It boggled my mind that a film with these huge, massive action sequences also told an incredibly personal tale of one man's kind of mental decline as he finds glory.
Yeah, and you get that with his backstory of him being a bastard child and not really belonging anywhere, and he's finding a place where he belongs, but yet they don't fully embrace him because he's not from their lineage.
But he's not really embraced by his own people either. He's kind of a man of no nation, it seems.
And he almost said to an extent with the legend kind of forms his own, like Nation of Lawrence, not like literally, but like he has all these people following him.
Now, one of the things this movie is known for is its influence on basically every movie that came after it. A lot of giant filmmakers like Steven Spielberg have cited it as one of their main influences to kind of make films. Everyone knows the soundtrack. I think they've heard it before. They know of its grand scale. What did you guys think about the presentation of it?
It's like, to me, it's basically unmatched. I mean, like you said, the score is incredible, but and this is such a big part of an epic, the environment, the way the environment is shot, the desert is shot, just going like, hey, let's take a 70 millimeter camera into the middle of a desert and let's shoot these massive landscapes. So, it's like you have characters who are just like almost a dot on the screen, but also how that's used to contribute to the plot always. All the production stuff contributes to that complex story, but the production quality is just legendary. And of course, big battle scenes, from way back, seeing people storm an entire town, and the production was super influential and really unmatched in terms of scale.
Yeah, the score of this movie was beautiful and just amazing. Having all these extras you got to handle, you don't see that nowadays anymore. They just have a group of people and then they just copy and paste them all over the place.
I mean,
hey, let's 500 dudes on horses. All right, run this way.
Those horse charges are stunning. The cinematography on those shots, specifically in the direction, they're these giant shots that are so well focused and well composed that you don't see that in modern day filmmaking. I see modern day filmmaking, it's when they do those big kind of scale shots, they want to film it in a way that you see everything, even if it doesn't look good. Whereas Lawrence was really focused on that, but also kind of guiding your eye to what's important to the story. You had these massive shots, like the No Prisoners scene where he charges in, where it's this big shot, but we're zeroed in on Lawrence himself. So you have
what's happening with his character.
I mean, you have this massive scale, but the shots are focusing on where the story needs to go.
Yeah,
no,
go ahead.
One thing too, like talking about those massive shots, what's replaced it now, and there's absolutely zero sense of grandeur or wow to it, is when they have big environment shots, it's entirely CG, almost exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the MCU. I remember Black Panther, you're setting up Wakanda, this nation. You have the shot of the whole thing, whatever, all of it's CG. Not even the grass is real, so you don't get that sense of wonder.
Well, and that's not even the only big example of that. Even from Disney, you look at Jungle Book or Lion King that have these big jungle scenes and desert scenes, and it's all computer generated. None of it's real.
Yeah, you could have made that an epic. If you wanted to do it live action for whatever reason, you could have made that an epic. Just actually go out in the desert or go out in the jungle.
You don't want people to die. And it would cost too much to travel.
Right, it's we're going to do this as easily as possible, and then we'll just CG it. Because at that point, the CG is probably significantly more expensive even.
It probably is, honestly. CGI is only big because it's convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're spending more, but instead of having to deal with passports and travel restrictions and moving equipment, you can just hire a bunch of nerds in Vancouver or Korea that can just on their computer type away and make your movie for you. It's depressing.
I'll tell you, the one thing you can't CGI that I thought was hilarious watching this movie was just watching a camel run. How often in a movie do you see a camel run?
Yeah.
The oddest running animal you've ever seen.
But that adds to some realism.
What I always remember is when they're charging the city and Lawrence is on the camel, just how weirdly camels run. He's trying to get it to go faster.
I know. I'm trying not to laugh, and I'm oh, this is a great epic battle, and I'm just he's fucking riding a camel.
And that's one of the weird bits, too, with the movie, is when the camels would make noises that clearly they weren't supposed to make. They're just doing the scene that kind of goes like right as they're trying to do dialogue.
How many times did he do it that cut? Twice? Okay, we'll stick with that one. Couldn't get him to shut up.
Yeah, because
but just like with the whole CG thing, I mean, when you think about just the sense of wonder you get, even just watching like there's a sequence where they're crossing the desert for a long time, but there's just nothing but desert. And it may sound like we're too like anti-CG, anti-modern, whatever, but like when's the last time you really felt blown away just like watching an environment? You know what I mean? Like just watching a landscape in a movie.
I mean, I'm not anti-CG. I'm anti too much CG.
Right.
If you can get a nice mix of practical and CG when you need to like fix something up, then it's great. Like Nolan movies, he mixes practical with CGI, and it's like you don't never know what is what sometimes when you watch his movies.
Visual effects are supposed to enhance a movie, not create a movie.
And Lord of the Rings is like maybe the most perfect example because that's an epic. Like they did as much as physically possible real, and then it's like, okay, there are things we literally can't do. We should extend it, but there was always something in reality that it was adding to.
With Lawrence of Arabia, a lot of those vista shots you could hang on your wall as art. They're that good. They're absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And mostly it's because, and I'm not a film purist, but nothing beats the 70mm Panavision look. That just that glorious wide shot with that perfect film grain and all that detail. Nothing beats that.
The world is beautiful. Just go out and see it.
Yeah. And shoot it.
Exactly.
Actually, capture, these incredible moments and these incredible views. And the one shot that I think this has been ripped off like 1,000 times, and especially now people do it with like a digital effect, but the Mirage scene where he's coming in on the horse, like that's one of the most influential shots, and they actually found a way to capture what a Mirage looks like, and now, you see that in every single desert movie.
And that's part of the issue when you go back and watch some of these old movies, right? Is that you don't get that same feeling that people got when they watched it for the first time. I mean, when Lawrence of Arabia came out, there was nothing else like it. It blew everyone away. But now you've seen so many movies that are derivative of it that I think some of that whimsy is lost. And that's my one regret with some of these movies, is that I wish I could get the same feeling that people did the first time they saw it. Like Alien's another one. That everyone knows what happens in Alien with the chestburster scene. Psycho, everyone knows what happens in Psycho now. But when they first came out, nobody did, and that was part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the only thing we can do now is go see movies before it gets leaked. And we don't get to see something grand.
And I think one thing that is great, again, because you talked about shooting on film, especially 70mm, one of the amazing things about that is we can get a certain sense, or at least some of that back with the remasters. I mean, Lawrence of Arabia has one of the best remasters ever. They put it back in. They took a 70mm film print, put it into 4K, and that's the copy you're going to see everywhere now. And you can get a sense of that, just making something look like it just came out. The digital copy for this is not as good as the disc. It still looks really good, but the disc copy is one of the best remasters ever done.
The remaster was supervised by both Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they worked together.
Shows how good it is.
Yeah, they worked together to make it look as good as possible. I want to switch gears right quick, and I want, because we talked about the scale, all the beautiful action sequences that you won't see anywhere else, the 500 guys on horseback. I want to kind of switch gears and talk about just the story of the movie itself and the character of T.E. Lawrence, and kind of talk about how that relates to the epic scale. Because I think that's the big thing with this movie that shocked me the most, was how introspective the story is.
Yeah, you don't see that nowadays with epics.
I mean, normally when I think of epics, I think of scale over story a lot of the time. This has both.
Well, I mean, look at most recent epic. You could kind of call an epic Mad Max Fury Road. A lot of action over substance.
And I think that the misconception, like when you think epic, you think the scale over the story. I think some of that is part of just one of the factors that led to epics declining and not really existing anymore, is that's a problem that came in. So now we kind of associate it that way now. But when you look back at some of the classic ones that started the whole thing or that were most influential, like Lawrence, it actually serves the story. Like the whole epic scale reflects back on Lawrence and really helps create, like you said, this really complex, really interesting character study that gets very dark at times. And everybody, when they talk about the influence this movie had, they talk about the incredible scale and production, which is all true, but also the film was very influential in creating that, response to a lot of the 60s musicals and those kinds of things, the darker, really complex stories, and this also influenced those heavily.
I was shocked by how bleak it is. It's a very bleak movie. Basically, Lawrence, he goes in there, he does his job, his supervisors and his superiors weaponize him. Both sides do. Both the British military and Prince Facile, played by Alec Guinness, who we're not going to talk about for obvious reasons.
This is basically the first time I've seen him outside of a Star Wars movie, so.
And they take it, and when you realize it's him, you kind of go, "Oh my goodness!" But
Obi-Wan.
David Lean is contractually obligated to put him in all his movies, so he tried real hard to fit him in.
But
like you were saying, David, it's amazing because it's a man trying to find his place in the world, and he gets accepted, but then he's also being used by both sides that accept him at one point at a time.
He's
at
a
the
weapon.
end, he ends up with nobody.
Well, because the British want to use him so they can take control of the Middle East, them in France. Lawrence thinks he's doing it to free Arabia for the Arabs and have them be under their own power, which the end of the movie basically shows that they are just not ready for that. They don't want that. They don't want...
Like, each individual tribe ends up really wanting it. Like, they don't want it for, everyone collectively.
And part of it is the whole debate about modernization versus traditional ways. That seems to be just a big part of it. Is all these different tribes are kind of out doing their own thing, are now thrust into the modern world.
Well, like even when they raid the first outpost, they wanted gold, not paper money.
Mm-hmm. They thought they were gonna get riches and didn't really realize that that's what riches means now. And Lawrence, seeing his doubt grow throughout the movie as his own kind of religious image grows into almost this godlike messiah figure, he has his own personal doubts, and the film portrays that beautifully, mostly through Peter O'Toole's performance. He is, all-time great tier in this. I think the scene...
to me, this is one of my favorite performances ever, I think.
I think the scene that exemplifies it the most is the scene, the no surrender scene. It's a part, probably towards the end of the movie, where Lawrence's army is about to make this raid. He's united all the tribes, and one of the tribes is saying no surrender, or no surrenders after anyone got killed. Basically, they're gonna go and kill everyone. No prisoners.
No prisoners.
They're gonna kill everyone. And Lawrence's own friends are trying to get him to stop, but he's so far gone into this own image that he finds himself saying no prisoners either. And you just see on the face of Peter O'Toole the amount of emotion
struggle
that he's feeling in that scene is insane. I mean, this dude's riding, I think it's a horse at this point, but he's riding a horse, this big thing, and he's still acting with so much fury. It's really
such an important moment. That's like the final straw, that's like he's really gone now.
It comes back from when earlier when he had to shoot. He had to kill the one guy who was causing mischief, and he did it because he had to. But at the end, he's like, I don't want to be a part of this, and then he wants to resign, and then everyone's like, no, you got to continue to do this.
But not only that, the man he killed was a man he saved earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
He went back to save him, and then finds himself taking his life in order to...
Which is so, when he rescues him, it was so inspiring and like this huge moment, and then that happens.
He has to kill him in order to save his own rebellion and bring and complete his mission. It's remarkably hard to watch, but it's jaw-dropping. This is an incredible movie that I just don't think enough people know about or have seen. I mean, a big issue with especially modern day filmmakers, all people in film school, is that they don't really watch a lot of the past stuff. They'll be able to tell you all of how great the MCU movies are and how great modern movies are, but you ask them, have you seen Lawrence of Arabia? And they'll tell you, no, I'm guilty of that. I saw this movie the first time. And this is one of those movies that I'm sure if you asked a class of freshman filmmakers, have you heard of Lawrence of Arabia? 80% at least will say yes. If you ask them how many have seen Lawrence of Arabia, probably less than 20% will say yes.
I was going to say probably at most 5%, I would think.
Yeah.
And
I think the length is a big detour of it. I mean, that's basically one of the reasons I kind of avoided it, because finding 4 hours of your day to dedicate to this is like, holy crap.
And that's an important distinction to make. When this film came out, it was when we had the road shows. It was when the big long movies would come into your town. You would have the overture, you would have an intermission, you would have exit music. You did like a program like you would at a play. It was this massive, giant event that, except for Hateful Eight, really hasn't been done since about the 60s. And
well,
so it was a much different
There's so many movies nowadays, and movie theaters only have so much time for so many things. They want to get customers in and out. You don't get to have especially with these new seats, the loungers, you can't fit as many people into a movie theater anymore. So they have to try to make money.
And Lawrence actually was heavily edited. I believe the version we saw is the director's cut, which really hadn't been seen for like 20 years. They brought it back in the 80s, but there was a shortened version that ran for a very long time.
Yeah, when it first released, it was this one, and then a shortened version came out, and then they put this stuff back.
So even if you have seen Lawrence of Arabia, there's a good chance you haven't actually seen David Lean's original vision for Lawrence of Arabia.
Makes you wonder what they cut out. Because, I mean, like I said, during this movie, I was like, I can't really see things you can cut out because everything comes back at the end. And or at one point, I mean, the only thing you could probably cut is like the first, 4 minutes of black screen and music.
Yeah, because
you better not take my overture.
Well, because so the 1963 version, which was the main theatrical version, was shortened by 20 minutes. The 1971 re-release was 187 minutes, which is about 40 minutes shorter than the director's cut.
Wow.
The first run of cuts was prompted by David Lean himself because of the issues with length. But he's kind of gone back and said that wasn't the case. He kind of said that might have been just producer ramblings.
Well, more often than not, it's usually the studio or producer that are like, hey, you need to cut this.
But it's also, like, that length today would not fly.
No.
I mean, studios would... I mean, Terry Gilliam
Batman
fought
v Superman. I mean,
for 10 minutes.
You get Zack Snyder makes 3-hour movies, and he's got to cut it to about 2.5 hours.
And the Irishman did get to release long, although that was a Netflix movie, and then also got a limited release. But I mean, you need to be that level of filmmaker, which David Lean was at that point. But even still, they wanted him to cut some.
I mean, if Irishman was made for a wide theatrical release and not Netflix with 5 theaters on top of that, it would not have been as long as it was.
No.
Yeah.
But it still made $70 million on a $15 million budget for 1962, which I'm going to do some math here quick. Let's see.
It was one of the highest grossing and most expensive films. I know that.
70 million in 1962 money.
For We're very technical here.
Okay, let me see here.
I think it might have been at the time the most expensive movie, if I remember right.
It would have made about, let's see. I want to get this right. It would have grossed in today's money over $600 million.
Pretty good.
So,
Yeah.
which I mean, we don't know. In today's day and age, films can make that much money and still be deemed a bomb.
Yeah, well, depends on how much they put into marketing and.
Well, and you have to remember too that films were released an entirely different way back then. Even in the 60s, there's a good chance that Lawrence's theatrical run was like at least a year, as it went from theater to theater, market to market.
And because, I mean, 600 million now, the inflation, again, doesn't do it justice of, like, how, besides the inflation, how big that was then. Because, I mean, it was one of the highest grossing films ever at that point. I mean, David Lean, literally the last film he had directed, had also won Best Picture and was an epic. So. And
was still almost 4 hours long, unless you saw 1-on-1 with the shortened versions, which was a common practice back then. That epics in the roadshow, that'd be the long version, and then they would cut it down for the regular version. And thankfully with Lawrence we can see that version. But a lot of movies, like I know one of the infamous ones, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, the version that aired in the road shows is lost forever. And we'll never see it again. That they've tried to reconstruct it and they just can't find all the footage. And
I know. Once Upon a Time in America is a film that they almost lost a lot of it. I mean, there's like 15 minutes of footage that's really good, but is in rough shape that they were able to put in, but it still looks rough.
And
Lawrence is like perfectly preserved.
And we were fortunate that it is. Part of it is that 70mm just doesn't go bad unless you store it bad. It will always look good.
And this was such an instant classic that, you know, they just made sure to store it all well right away.
They're like, this is going to be one of the greatest movies ever made. Do not fuck this up.
And it truly is, and I think I'll like it more. I currently have it at a 4.5 out of 5 because the first act, I'm kind of with Justin, I think is a little slow and kind of is a little bit hard to watch. You have to be in the right mindset to watch it.
Yeah,
but I feel like upon rewatch, I'll be fine. I
can speak from experience. Like the first time I watched it, I mean, I was into it the first hour, but like I don't love that first hour like I do now. I think I started at a 4 out of 5, which really should have been a 4.5. But now I'm at like a 6. Like, I mean, it just sticks with you. You never stop thinking about it. And you'll just keep thinking about it and be like, yeah, okay, I love this even more than I realized. Like, it just won't go away.
Because it's so deep and goes so in-depth into Lawrence's character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in love with it. I think this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I'll probably try and get a physical copy of it. I'm not going to go for that $200 mega one that you have, Alex.
That I got for $35 on eBay, brand new.
Nice.
I should get arrested for that. I robbed it. It's got a
highway robbery.
I have a 70mm frame.
If you haven't figured it out, we freaking love this movie, and you should go see it. But I want to switch gears right now and talk about epics in general and what happened to them. Because Lawrence of Arabia, which we talk about, is the pinnacle example of the epic. But I think some wires have been crossed and talk about what is an epic. So first up, I want to...
I have very restrictive criteria.
Yeah, because I want us to define what an epic is and talk about what happened to them, because you don't really hear the term epic used for movies much anymore, and definitely not in the same way that it was when Lawrence of Arabia came out.
Right, you hear a lot of different things called epic or called like an epic, even superhero movies, but also, you know, you think about the crime epic, which talks about a lot, but that's really just a long story that's incredible, but it doesn't have all the ingredients of like a classical epic. I have like five like short criteria that I kind of go by that I've just kind of like thought of as I go on. The first thing is the obvious, like length. It's long. That's just the way it is.
Well, how long is long?
Anything over 3 hours, I would think.
Or would you say 2.5?
I think, 240, 250 I've seen. I mean, the theatrical cut of Fellowship of the Ring is 250 something. And no one's going to debate that as an epic, that's for sure. So I think, longer than 2.5, because you can have one that's like 240, I think. I think I've seen one that's that long. The Searchers, I think, is about there, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I thought Searchers was shorter.
It might be.
Would you consider The Searchers an epic?
It's borderline. It's got a lot of the ingredients.
Searchers is under 2 hours.
Wow, that's shocking.
And it continue with your criteria.
It's on the border.
Continue with the 10 Commandments, Moses.
The other really obvious one, the 5 Commandments. Scale is, that's just obvious. It's big scale, large events happening with, lots of extras and just, big sets or whatever's happening, it's big. Scope is kind of related to that, but more in terms of story. So like the story itself, it could be because it's over a long period of time. It could be because the reach of the story is really long, but something that like where the character starts and where they end is a massive journey, if you get what I mean. Like Lawrence, Lawrence completely changes.
But I think what's important with Lawrence, the distinction of Lawrence, when you hear of journey, people might think literally, like in case of Lord of the Rings, they go on a long physical, geographical journey. Lawrence kind of does that, but he more goes on a long personal journey, and the character he is at the beginning is not who he is at the end.
Right, and sometimes it's accomplished with distance of journey, but not always. The important part is that the character journey is of a great, much bigger scale and scope than even just a regular film that takes them on a great arc. Because Lord of the Rings, they go on a long physical journey, but like when they return to the Shire at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, these are completely different people. Everything looks different just because of how different the character is.
Mm-hmm.
A big one that is definitely lost now, but is very important, is the practicality. Which we've kind of touched on earlier. Like, yes, you can use CG to extend it. Think about Lord of the Rings. But how many of those incredible shots are you looking at that's a real New Zealand environment? Which I'll get to environments more in just a second. But the practicality of the sets, the fact that you have hundreds and hundreds of extras contributing to that scale is crucial. That's a big part of making an epic.
Lawrence...
It makes it feel larger.
Well, a lot of modern day movies, when it comes to Lawrence, I don't think they would use CGI. What I've seen a lot of modern day historical movies is they would because Lawrence, it's well known for the horse charges, of the hundreds of extras charging on horseback or camelback in some cases, attacking whole villages. A lot of modern day movies just wouldn't show that part. They would cut after the fact to save money.
Cut inside the building where they're all fighting.
Cut inside the charging, wide shot is CG. Cut inside the charging, have like 10 people, and then cut outside and it's all CG.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing, which does relate, but again, is just a slight difference, is environments. I think you have to have real wide environment shots. That's such a staple of epics. You just have the camera way back and there's just this massive real world landscape that just blows you away. But also, again, like it does in Lawrence, contributes to the story. And Lord of the Rings, you see that they have all these, especially Lord of the Rings had all of those helicopter shots. And you just have these tiny people running, that look so insignificant compared to the landscape, but are literally changing that whole world.
Lord of the Rings is the greatest tourism video ever made. I've never seen a better...
that's the power of it. That's the power of the environment thing, is they made New Zealand Middle-earth.
Now you keep bringing up Lawrence of Arabia, obviously, and Lord of the Rings. What other movies, in your opinion, qualify as epics?
Well, there's some, classical ones that a lot of people were talking about. David Lean's own Bridge on the River Kwai. Ben-Hur is another very famous one.
10 Commandments.
Yeah, Ten Commandments, all very, very grand ones. But even one that's like 2000, I think, in general, Gladiator it can definitely be considered an epic.
Would you consider Good and the Bad and the Ugly an epic? Because that's often called one too.
Yeah, definitely. And you can even see that progression with the other two films in the series, which are great. But like those two are great westerns. You get to the Good and the Bad and the Ugly, it's like, yeah, this one's an epic. Like the genre almost changes in that sense. Like it becomes a true epic. Seven Samurai and Ran from Kurosawa are definitely epics.
One movie I'm really mad I didn't make you watch before this discussion because it's considered it's considered from history an epic. And I know that you've wanted to see all the big epics out. But I think could be debated whether or not it counts as an epic. It's a mad world, because that has most of your criteria, but it twists it into a different way.
Right, and I think there's probably then a good chance I would consider it one.
And that's one I also recommend, because it's been copied by every modern comedy.
Patton's another one. Patton is definitely an epic.
And as you've probably noticed, we're talking about epics. Most of the epics that we've brought up are like 60s movies. Because the epic kind of died. The epic was a relic of the old way of going to movie theaters when it would be an event. Going to see an epic at a road show kind of predicted the modern day film going experience, in that, I mean, you go there, you have this big event, long movie, sit in at the nice theater, but they also require you to buy your tickets ahead of time, which back then was, the once in a lifetime big movie. Ooh, fancy! I got my tickets to go see Lawrence of Arabia. Date night event. When now, if you want to go see a movie at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, you still have to buy your tickets ahead of time. That's just how it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nowadays, like, if you look up epic movies, which I did, you get stuff that I don't consider epics, like Tenet, 1917,
Nope.
Dunkirk,
Nope.
Mulan, the Disney live action ones. Like,
Definitely not.
Epic.
Mulan.
Warcraft. It's like, these aren't epics.
Warcraft's not an epic.
It was made in a computer.
Well, I think...
And I think really the golden age,
Here I have one.
The period of epics was 40s to 70s.
I have one that I think could be debatable, but I think might be on it. We could talk about the Lord of the Rings being the last true epics. What about The Dark Knight?
I think that's in the category we're talking about of crime epic.
Really?
But isn't like an epic, if that makes sense, like what people call a crime epic, but I think Dark Knight is missing the environments, and also like there's a lot of big things happening, but I don't think it has the scale, if you know what I mean. Like it doesn't have as big of a scale.
I don't know if I entirely agree with you on that.
I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I can see where you're coming from, David, but I also don't feel like it is one.
But what about Dark Knight Rises? Because doesn't that have scale?
See, Dark Knight Rises is the one that I would be like, this is almost an epic, or could be considered one.
Now,
but I think it's just like it's just missing a little bit. Like it's one that's kind of on the border.
Now, one movie that I think modern day people are trying to call an epic would be something like Avengers Endgame, mostly because of length. And it does have scale, and it does have scope. But you look up behind the scenes of Lawrence of Arabia, and it's amazing. Or Lord of the Rings, you watch those days worth of documentaries that come on the DVD and Blu-ray sets, and you see all the work they put into basically building this world, and all the real world applications and props and sets. And you look up the behind the scenes of Avengers Endgame, and you get a bunch of dudes in green pantsuits and bodysuits running around fighting.
That's the thing. Not even the costumes in Endgame are real anymore.
No, half the characters are wearing CGI outfits.
But for the sake of argument, would you consider Avengers Endgame an epic?
Hell no.
No.
And that's just a few of them. There's also besides no practicality, there's not the environments. There's a lot missing from it.
See, people are going to think we just hate Marvel movies in general.
How about one? Lord of the Rings is an epic. The Hobbit is not.
See, I was just about to bring that up because Lord of the Rings is a pretty good case study in what's an epic and what's not. Because Lord of the Rings is the definition of an epic, and then you have The Hobbit, which is made in a computer and is not like you can see the death of the epic from The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings.
I think even you could consider the first Hobbit an epic, maybe, because there's a lot of environment shots and stuff. Those are completely dead in 2 and 3. By then, it's it's just another blockbuster.
Let's see. While we're here on this, topic,
I got one for you guys. Well, for Alex because he's seen it. I was looking up a list. Someone has at 20 Amadeus.
Fuck. Fuck. I was just thinking about that too, and I didn't think anybody would bring it up. I was hoping not. God, that's even more on the border to me than something like Dark Knight, or like, because I don't really know, because it has like damn near all of them. I don't know if it has the environment, but it has really big...
It doesn't have quite the sweeping shots and everything, but I mean everything else.
It has the scale, because like it doesn't have like when we think scale, we think battles, action scenes, whatever. Like its scale is like, yo, we're gonna completely reconstruct Vienna opera houses and entire performances.
But that's a really good point. I think when people think of epics, they think of giant epic battle scenes, but I don't necessarily know if those have to be present.
Right.
Definitely helps your cause.
Because I mean, certainly, I don't think they would make Amadeus now.
I have one that I don't know if you've seen, Justin, but I know you've seen, Alex, and you probably know what I'm about to say because I bring it up to you a lot at random points just because I can, and that's the 1990s Gettysburg movie.
Oh yeah, that's an epic.
The one thing stopping it from I think it's epic. The one thing that's kind of in the back of my mind is the fact that it wasn't really supposed to be a movie. It's supposed to be a TV show that they just cut into a movie.
It's still got all the criteria and the tons of extras. I don't know how that was originally going to be on TV with that budget, whatever that probably was.
It's because Ted Turner is a madman.
But yeah, I would definitely classify that.
So I'm on Google right now because now that we're kind of talking about this, I think I'm enjoying this.
It's like Deer Hunter.
I kind of want to disqualify this list now because number 3 he has Forrest Gump
as an epic.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
We're just going to say no and move on.
So many things that are just, this story covers a long period of time and is long, get called an epic. Like, one of the big ones to me, The Godfather is my top movie of all time. I don't put that in the category of epic. It's the best film I've ever seen, but I don't think that's in the category of those long crime films that kind of get pushed into epic, but they're not really in that genre.
I have an interesting one. It doesn't have length, but it kind of has other stuff. And you're going to say no right away, Alex, but I think it's kind of an interesting topic to bring up on this. Some epic movies I have on Google. The Prince of Egypt.
Ooh, the animated one, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree as hard as you think I am. Here's the, it can't really, because an epic is like real live action on location a lot of times type stuff. But if you could make a subcategory of animated epics, that would be one.
That'd probably be the top one, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't really fit in the genre just because it's, especially the factor of practicality and on location stuff, but I won't disagree as hard as you thought I was going to.
Because I'm enjoying this, I'm going to throw out some random movies because this list is all over the place.
Yeah, I like having my way too specific criteria tested.
And to be fair to all the people listening, this is our opinion, so I mean, take it with a grain of salt. You can either agree or disagree. Let us know.
But if you disagree, you're wrong.
Here's an interesting one. The Aviator.
Fuck. I've been thinking about this one too. I actually don't think it is because it could have been one. I think the fact that literally every single thing involving flying is completely CG.
Okay. A lot of these on this list I see are really bad. Just like the answer's obviously no. Constant. Like Justin said really some, but I see Ad Astra on here. I see The Irishman, but that'd be a crime epic. The Great Wall, movie.
And Irishman is so it doesn't have any environment or scale.
I see Ben-Hur, but it's the new Ben-Hur.
Oh, yeah.
Here's an interesting one, actually.
Oh no! Oh no!
I have an interesting one, actually.
That's actually a good case study too.
I'm the only one that's seen this movie. I'm pretty sure. And I've only seen the first part of it. I'm waiting to have more time to see part 2. But Bahubali, the Indian 300 movie, might actually technically be an epic.
If there's a category of ironic epic, that does have a lot of CG though. But I would say if
it does, but the number of extras. The number of extras in the climax of the first Bahubali, which if you have not seen or heard of, just Google Bahubali and you will not be disappointed by the YouTube videos.
I feel like you've definitely seen meme GIFs that use it, I'll tell you that much.
like it is, I think everyone's seen the clip online of where they launch themselves over the city walls with their shields, and they form into like a shield box as they fly through the air and crash land into the other city. It's
fine. Even Wikipedia calls it an epic.
Because it technically.
I think honestly, I haven't seen it yet. Just based on the clips I've seen, it probably is. It's like ironic, but it is.
I want them to set out to make one, but it's. I've never seen a bad movie that was so good like I did Bahubali. I love it. It's so stupid. And part of it is cultural differences. Like Indian movies, Bollywood, they always have to have musical sequences, even if they're not musicals.
This has musical sequences?
Yeah, it has musical sequences because every Bollywood movie has at least one musical number. This one has several.
Okay, now I'm kind of intrigued to look this up.
Oh, dude, you need to. The fact that you haven't yet, just try and find the scene where they fly with the shield. It's really funny. Let's see. Any other quick ones? This is an interesting. See, a lot of these I'm seeing could have been. I see Noah on here.
That was a better movie.
I was just thinking about. I'm looking at photos right now because Ridley Scott did this one. Lord of the Rings is the last classic epic. I think Kingdom of Heaven could have been too if they actually let him release the epic version in theaters. But I was looking at Exodus, Gods and Kings, and that's a good study of why epics don't exist anymore, because basically all those environments are CG. Yep. And they're using, and they forgot the characters. It's not any kind of grand scope in character development, and really it's again CG being used as much as possible rather than as little as possible. What can we get away with using CG for so that this is easier?
I feel like a big part of an epic is using CGI to do the things that you can't do practically, but doing everything that you can do practically.
Or touching up little things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Battle of Helm's Deep, they constructed wall segments and had hundreds of extras, and then we need 10,000 people. Okay, we'll do some copy paste with the 500 extras we have.
But it wasn't even that simple. I watched the behind the scenes. They created a new AI program and basically had an AI watch hundreds of hours of fight choreography footage, and then made a bunch of AI soldiers that fought each other at the battle scene for realism.
Right, and no one puts that much effort into the army CG type stuff anymore. It's just design some people who are going to run over here that look really fake.
If Troy was a better movie, I think that could almost crack the list.
Yeah, I think that's one that the story's not very well written or anything, but that is one that pretty much you could say is an epic. I think they filmed it that way. But the ones that came out like that are ones like Alexander or other ones that use more CG and stuff. They took all the wrong lessons in terms of CG, but then also in terms of trying to copy Gladiator, they took all the wrong lessons and weren't about character, and also led to the decline of epics because they didn't focus on character and didn't really have environment shots or anything.
Because I mean, the biggest problem is with the CGI is we can tell, and that's what takes us out of it. I mean, watching Lawrence of Arabia, like, you know, there's no CGI. You're like, wow, they made this. Everything
they
is
did,
real.
Jaw dropping.
Everything they did for real. Those are all dudes on horseback. Like, they're in the desert.
And I think that kind of plays more part in with some of these epics, is because, you know, they didn't fake it. Like, they faked it, but they actually did most of this stuff, and you know that.
Now, before we kind of move on to our final topic of the discussion, I just want to say one thing. We are not as pretentious asshats as we sound right now. I want to assure people we do enjoy watching movies and aren't as much of dicks as we're coming across right now when it comes to what we watch.
No, we're not dicks, but we're also not gonna sweep it under the rug either.
But I think it is important.
Like these are real issues, right? It's just with certain films, it's just, it's not like we don't enjoy things that have CG, but it's sad that do have CG. It's just sad to see like an entire amazing genre die because you aren't allowed to make them this way anymore.
And with that, I want to kind of talk about why we think the genre died. I think the answer is probably obvious. Length.
I think it's more complicated than that.
It plays a big role, I believe.
I mean, I don't think...
They wanted to still be making them in the early 2000s after the big success of Gladiator and Lord of the Rings. They just took all the wrong lessons and I think slowly destroyed it with that, as, again, CG started taking the place of basically everything.
But I think viewer habits also play a big role in that, and also how theater culture has changed. It used to be a theater would show, one showing a night to like 500 people or something, maybe two. There'd be like a 7 p.m. and then like a 9-10 p.m. with a matinee on weekends. That's the classic. I think with the megaplexes that kind of started sprouting up in the 80s and 90s, it became how many times can we show a movie in one day? How many run times can we get? How much can we squeeze out of a movie?
You also only had to deal with like 3 to 4 trailers before a movie. Now you have to have like 20 minutes of trailers and commercials from car dealerships and stuff. It's like, we just came for the movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the fact that every movie is like 2.5 hours now, and the fact that you have 20 minutes, literally 20 minutes of trailers before movies, it's like people are in the theater for 3 hours anyway now. So I don't, for any movie, so I don't think length is as big of an issue as it might seem, because we're sitting there for the same amount of time now.
But that's my point. I don't think length is always the issue for the audience. I think it's the issue for the theaters themselves. They don't want long movies.
And studios, because they want to get as much money that opening weekend as they can before the next big blockbuster comes out and takes half their revenue.
I mean, that's why, looking up when I was younger, that's why the Gettysburg movie failed. It wasn't because people weren't watching it. It was because you could only have 2 showtimes a day because it's 4.5 hours long.
That one was,
I mean,
that was a little ridiculous.
For every epic movie they can put in theaters, they can put about 3 animated movies in there to get families in to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're forgetting the draw of quality. You know what I mean? Like, people will see something. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings is still now one of the biggest draws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it too, and why you're kind of seeing theater attendance, because it's a really big stat that not a lot of people are talking about, is theater revenue is going up, right? But theater attendance has been going down significantly over the past several years. Decades, probably. Ticket prices are increasing, but not as many people are going to the movies, even before the pandemic.
Well, that's also to do with all the streaming services, and you also have the limited seating now in theaters where they're not rows and rows, they're like 5-6 rows of lounging chairs.
I mean, literally,
they fit like 20 people in a row.
In some theaters, 5 people are in that theater, and somehow all the good seats are gone.
Yeah,
it's painful, and I also think part of it is the viewing experience at movie theaters. in some areas, not all, but a lot of times going to the movies is a horrible, awful experience.
You got someone on their phone, someone talking.
That's why I go to the Alamo when it was open almost exclusively. I mean, yes, you have higher quality projectors. Yes, you have higher quality food and just an overall better movie experience. But also, it's cleaner. The people there don't suck as much. Unless you go on $5 Tuesday, that attracts everyone. I bet. It's why I'm willing to pay more to go see movies on non-$5 days, because I have a much better time. Because you go to an AMC, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Or Marcus.
LA.
AMC, Marcus has nothing on AMC. Marcus theaters, hit or miss, I'd say. Cleanliness on Marcus can be pretty iffy.
Yeah.
But I've generally speaking had really good experiences with audiences at Marcus, not AMC.
Yeah, that was my thing too.
But here's the thing about going to Epics. Do you really want to sit for 3 hours in a theater where nobody is respecting anybody else wanting to watch a movie?
I want to kill somebody.
I saw Avengers Endgame at both the Alamo Drafthouse opening day, which was an amazing experience, and then saw it on AMC a few days later to see it in IMAX, which was probably the worst IMAX that I've ever been into. Oh my God. It wasn't even real IMAX. It was like this weird half beta IMAX. I've been in Marcus super screens with bigger screens, but that's not the point. The point is I had to sit for 3 hours in a crappy, crowded seat. I went in there and somebody was in my seat and tried to explain to me that their ticket was my ticket. No. No, it's not. I bought that seat.
Or you get the people that come in late and they always sit right next to you because that's how it works.
I have one worse than that. I went to see a movie at AMC. I took my wife to go see her favorite movie of all time for our anniversary, Howl's Moving Castle. They were showing a special showing for some Ghibli thing, and she really wanted to go. So I took her as a surprise to her for our anniversary. And there were people coming in while the movie had already started, because it's a Fat Events movie, which means there's no trailers. They came in when the movie had started, and they were talking. The movie's on, and they're talking, and they talk throughout the movie. I think that plays a much bigger role, because, you go to some movies, and you can sit through that for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But if I had to sit through Lawrence of Arabia, right, a movie that is amazing, and have to deal with morons on the left of me, morons on the right, in front and behind, that are impacting my ability to enjoy the movie, of course I'd rather see it at home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that definitely plays a role. So it's really, it's not one thing. It's that whole rush of things, how theaters treat things now, how the process in which you can make a film, and what studio restrictions, now that studios have gotten more and more and more power again, will allow you to do, have led to this whole experience. And then people are in movie theaters for 3 hours now just because of how long the trailers are, but then they try and skip them, and that creates this whole other problem. And
it's going to a movie, especially if you go to one of the big megaplexes, is like going to a zoo, it's going to a rat race, because you have to buy your tickets days ahead of time if you want a good seat, and you have to rush in, and no one there respects cinema. It's depressing.
That's one good thing about all the little indie films like Jojo Rabbit. It's no one wants to go see that. You're the only you're the only one in the theater, or you're with people who want to see it, and you're no one says anything.
And it's a shame, and it's a bizarre phenomenon too, right? Just because, we've talked about, movies have gotten longer, especially the big blockbusters. They've gotten longer. We still have our epics. We still have our road shows in quotations. We still have the big movies that we will all travel long ways to see at the nicest theater possible. But it's not the same. And I think movies like Lawrence of Arabia just couldn't exist now. I mean, Hateful Eight tried.
State of the system.
Hateful Eight tried to bring the epic back. or at least the roadshow and how epics were presented.
Yeah, the roadshow style. I don't think the film itself is an epic, but it did the roadshow style, classical style thing.
And it bombed.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, Hateful Eight did not do well at the box office.
Because it's really good. That's,
It's usually how it goes. Good movies don't do well, bad movies.
Well, whoever decided to release it right after Force Awakens was an idiot. That's really what killed it.
You.
That's like Tarantino has said that Weinstein releasing it right after Star Wars came out, because they're doing like the big roadshow release, right? Well, the Cinerama Domes and all other big theaters aren't going to give up Star Wars for Hateful Eight.
Especially one that hasn't, since we hadn't had one in 15 years at the time.
Because otherwise, Tarantino is always a huge draw with his films.
I saw the roadshow for Hateful Eight, and I wish more movies would have that approach. I would go see a 4-hour movie like Lawrence if they had the full roadshow. And that's what's so great about the Lawrence release now, that some epics do, some don't, but some do, is it left in the overture. It left in the exit music. It left in that roadshow experience. So you can still have it. And not a lot of movies do that nowadays.
You gotta pee sometime,
Honestly, that's a basic thing.
Intermission so that people aren't constantly entering and exiting. And
that's a big thing we talked about, is movies that are over maybe 2.5, for sure 3, need intermissions. They need mandatory intermissions. That needs to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are coming and going constantly.
I mean, even if it's just 5 minutes, it's all it needs.
Just so I can go take a piss, and or just walk around for a little bit, stretch my legs.
Yeah.
Your back. Even though they're loungers, they're still a pain in the ass.
And there's nothing. Yeah. There's no worse feeling than when you get out, like when you're all sweaty after a movie, and you peel yourself off of a theater chair.
Especially in the summer.
Yeah, and you just get up and you just feel gross.
You're like, what did I sit in?
And you walk outside and you're walking like you got kicked in the butt. It's like you can't move your legs and your pants are stuck to your ass.
And kids are going, why is he walking funny?
Well, I just saw Avengers Endgame and now I can't. Now I can't walk right.
I mean, I nutted hard.
With that, we are out of time. Okay, so with that, we're out of time. Thank you for listening to us rant about Lawrence of Arabia epics and the movie theaters as a whole, and what led to kind of the demise of the big epic movie and the roadshow experience. As always, thank you for listening. Follow us on Spotify and Letterboxd. My name is Daha.
Also find us on Google Podcasts and our new YouTube channel, Idiot Plot Podcast.
Yep, we are on YouTube. It is not a video version, I should clarify. It is just the audio file.
But if that's how you find yours, that's where we got it.
Yep. So thank you for listening. For Justin Neitzel and Alex Overall, I'm David Yanish. This has been Idiot Plot, and we will see you next time.